pay you how to make it engage. They think, we have this classic IP monopolist position. I said, look, here, let me tell you two facts to factor in your thinking. Fact number one is, if the thing that you wanted to exist today, which is an IP database that all training companies, training AI models would only either use in training or inference, would only be with explicit agreement with you, the AI models could still create Disney characters. And what's more, even if that existed, they would be able to create as good Disney characters, because there's a lot of content out there in the web that isn't in your IP database that tells you what Mickey Mouse looks like, how to make a Mickey Mouse, how to do it in all kinds of different ways. And at most, it only slows down the training some, because these AIs are very good generalizers, very good learners from lots of the set of data. So it isn't actually, in fact, they can't do it, even if you excluded all of the stuff that you had trademarks on, had copyright on, et cetera, they'd still be able to get there and do that, maybe just a little slower. So that's the gap. Now, the further problem is the Chinese don't care. And the Chinese are going to go create the open source models or other kinds of things, or access to them, using all of this. So the thing is, when you think about data, and another thing, you know, in this metaphorical example is the Disney thing, that's going to be out there and doing it. So we have to navigate that world as doing it. Now, I want there to be a good role for incenting creators as part of the reason why I believe in IP and copyright and everything else. Sometimes it's taken too far as a kind of a ongoing, like the length of time that things are in copyright is actually, in fact, you know, growing and growing and growing, and it's unclear that it really should be. And so that, you know, Creative Commons and other kinds of efforts on this. But that's what I mean by when this gets to this whole world of data, because you go, okay, should we be figuring out ways that data is better navigated for both individual and social well-being? The answer is yes, but we have to do it within a global context, which means that your tools for doing it are very limited. And as we get into the future, we will have a better sense of what the actual shape of that configuration is. That doesn't mean there won't be some harms done now, some harms done along the way, and that will happen. And, you know, as an author who owns copyright on things and so forth, you know, I understand that and participate in that, but it's a question of, I actually think for society, the creation of these AIs giving us superagency is going to be so good. And part of the thing is we want to make sure that the various Western societies are at the leading forefront, where, you know, in competition with societies like China, which are, you know, kind of autocratic and, you know, kind of a different set of agendas, we want to make sure that we're not falling behind in that. And that's part of the reason why the cautionary of being more sort out the data regulation, you know, as we're going, trailing versus leading, is part of why I take that advocacy position.
Okay, so this is a very interesting position, and I resonate with many parts of it, but I want to deconstruct it a little bit. Because there is a question of, okay, how effective is the current regulation at regulating properly things that, you know, we live through in the world of AI? And as you gave an example with the IP, just like there's this power of AI and actually internet and just digital data of, like, you know, sometimes just giving access to data, like we were thinking about, let's say, access to the birth certificates or other things, which it used to be that you could walk into like a town hall and just get a birth certificate of anyone. Well, now it's no longer the case, because people realize you can aggregate this data, you can digitalize this data and infer from this much more than you would expect. So this goes back to your like question of, you can recreate a Disney character even without ever explicit training on any of the Disney content. So that's kind of a reality. Now there's a question of, what is the perfect world? Like, kind of, okay, we want the Western countries to be leading here. We want this society to benefit. And that's a vision. That's important to have a vision we agree on.